Oh, greetings, boys and girls. Sitting here reading a book on strokes. I had that from the last time I was in a hospital when I thought I was having a stroke, and instead, the doctor said it was stress, work-related. Can you imagine that? Me? Stressed about work? Okay. Social media has been a big question that come up quite often, social media. There's a lot of questions regarding social media. We are an environment where our students are heavily involved in social media. But I'm also finding out we have a lot of individuals that really don't understand social media and how social media works. And so with that, I just wanted to talk about two or three actually elements or products out there for social media as far as connecting. Now we do know about Facebook. Before that was MySpace. Everybody talked about MySpace, and a lot of people poo-pooed it. And from that came Facebook. And with Facebook then came Twitter. There also came Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, and there's a knockoff from a Pinterest site. There's a few knockoffs there. Sometimes I use Padlet as far as an avenue. We've used blogs for years, and some people are still using blogs as far as getting information out. And the big question is, why are we even thinking or talking about the issues of social media? Why do we have to talk about social media? I'll be honest with you, I've heard it right here. I abhor social media. I abhor social media. What happens is we get this trickle effect. Here's what I'm finding, though. I use social media quite a bit. Now, we've spent a lot of money on subscription for magazines and for different products in hopes that we get a good return on our investment. And I'm a ROI type of guy. I want to see that people are using what tools we have out there. And if they're not, I don't want to spend the money on it. Now, one of the tools that I found for me, and I have used this ever since the creation of it, started getting into it, and that is using social media. As this graphic shows you that they're sharing, and there's transformation, there's blogs, and there's you have large and small, there's research. In fact, like some of the MOOCs that are out there are using social media. And MOOC is, in some cases, like a social media, they're using that to collect data. They're doing research, and it's an easy, cheap way of collecting a lot of research. There's ways that we connect with social media. We reach more people. I have reached more people with social media, people that I've been stationed with in the military, people that I've gone to school with in the military, and other places. I've been communicating with folks, and we share information back and forth. And so that's how I use social media. But what I want to talk about is how we can use social media really to help us as educators, administrators, consultants, and such, how to better utilize. One of the things that I found is by doing this, be able to communicate with folks in various ways, social media, I learn a lot more than just reading a book that I on the shelf. Or I know I get the right book through that. I read what the blogs state, what some of the social media, what LinkedIn is saying about it, and such. And so that's how I use that. So with that, I want to just kind of bring in a social media that's out there. I'm going to, as soon as it comes up, I mentioned Google Plus or Google Hangouts and such as that. Here's one of the things about Google Plus. It's kind of it's in competition with Facebook in a way. It provides some areas where you can kind of hang out. For instance, here's the communities that I've joined. I've joined the instructional design and e-learning professionals. I get a lot of information on teaching online and how to develop out courses and areas like that. I've taught art in the past, and so I like art education. I like getting involved with what some of the posts are that folks have there. Technology and education is another one, and YouTube education, ed and tech and ed. And when we talk about uh, maker movement. There's a lot of places where you can go and find out what K-12 is doing and what universities and colleges are doing with it. And plus there's other apps that you can pick up as you're going through. What do you know about project-based learning? I'm not going to wait for what the author who's written the book says. I'm not going to go spend $67 for that. I'm going to start talking about people. I'm going to start talking to or communicating with or following people that are actually doing project-based learning. And there's so much more in here as far as the education and all with that. So that's one place where I can go and I can click into it and I can find out exactly what I want to know. And for instance, if I click on this, what I have here is Christopher Pappas comes up, who writes a lot on e-learning. And so he comes up with these feeds and he talks about some of the things like MOOCs, and he talks about what helps people learn and a whole lot of things. Internationally, he talks about that. Another group that I go to and communicate with, and that is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is it's a professional social media. I encourage students to get involved in this because they can find out what companies are doing. What are companies doing out there? How are they working with people? Find out what the job descriptions are. Find out really what they're looking for. You can connect with people and ask them questions. I get a lot of students asking me about how to look for a job. And I recommend them that they just go into the LinkedIn and just kind of communicate with them and find out what's going on. Of course, here you see Adam. He's heavily involved in this. I'm in it. If you know anything about the FETC, that's the Florida Technology Conference, she's heavily involved in that. Some other folks that are there that are involved in some of the different groups. And you can join these different groups and find out what all they have to offer and some ideas and thoughts. You throw out a question. We always ask, well, let's contact all the other schools. Why don't we throw that question out to a whole group of people, maybe more global aspect? And this is one way to find out how things are. And again, any social media, you're going to always find that person that wants to sell you something or make contact with you and all that business. Now, one of the last areas that I want to talk about as far as social media, and that is Twitter. Now, I had somebody say to me that they didn't even want to have to deal with Twitter. You can only type 140 words or characters, and they didn't like that, and they just felt it was too abbreviated, and there's not a whole lot of information there. Let me tell you something. I am one that used this quite a bit. Conferences, when you go to a conference or you hear about a conference, just recently, for instance, the Florida Educational Technology Conference, when they had their conference, they put everything on Twitter. People put it on Twitter. People share information on Twitter. And I always encourage people to do this, and library staff started doing this too. They did it. They went to a conference, put a lot of information on through Twitter feeds, find out a lot what's going on. And so, for instance, here I've got my Twitter feed, and for whatever it is that I'm looking for, I use it in class, and I think I've got another lecture on that somewhere on my YouTube account. But in this case, for instance, I got my feed, and I've got some certain areas I'm following. Who am I following? And in this case, I'm following Art Collector Magazine and a few others. So they've got a few feeds right here, right close by. But let's say I want to go find out about a conference, and I know that FETC had their conference here last week. I'm going to just, because I want to find out more about what's going on, I want to see. And on this, when I type in that hashtag FETC, I've got what are some of the top posts and what are all the posts. I'll just go through the top posts, but I recommend that you click on the all posts. You can see what everybody's posting. And I'll tell you, you want to save money, find out what the hashtag is, and find out what's being talked about and discussed, because sometimes that may help you understand what it is that Especially if you're at the conference, you know you have 3 different sessions you want to go to. Get the hashtag for those sessions, get the hashtags for the conference, follow that, share that with other people. Because as I'm reading this, or I'm seeing different websites, for instance, this one, somebody put Motion Savvy in there. I don't know what that is, but if I'm interested, I'll click on that. I can take a look at some of the pictures that are out there. Here's another thing too, like for instance, this particular one was favored 22 times. That means a lot of people were looking at that and seeing it. And so as you go through this, you'll see other hashtags. You see like Edmodo. Edmodo is large. It's a free learning management system. It's limited. We couldn't use it at the college level, here at the university level, but John Carroll's using it. And so they have people that's involved with this. You find out who are some of the key speakers. Adam Bello is one that was presented some information, so you can go to that individual site, find out what he is talking about, what some of his background is. You go through this and see, and again, for instance, what students want, and you go to that page and find out what students want. You find out what people are reading. You're published. Let's say you write something. You write a blog. You can put that in here and say, hey, check out my blog on this, because now that takes you beyond the 140 characters. This takes you into your blog. That gives exposure to you. But also find out other information too, especially in the maker movement and what some of the technologies, what K-12's coming up with, okay? And we're still hanging on to the Big Chief tablet and yellowed acetates. This is what K-12's doing. This is in Florida, okay? A lot of information here. I really just wanted to share this because the big question came out that I don't know anything about social media. This is just a quick overview as to what is it that I'm looking for, what is it that I want. What does my class need? And I tell you what, when you find out that in the kindergarten and 1st through 5th grades, they're using 3D printers, and we're thinking about it here, that's a scary thought, that really is. And here again is this company has some pictures here as to what some of the products that they have to offer. So it gives you an idea of what you're looking for. I don't have to actually be there hands-on. So again, the hashtag works well. If you find out you have a conference, there's a couple of conferences I'm anticipating speaking at this summer. And so one of the things that's going to be out there is those hashtags for. I'll publish those hashtags. People can follow those. So I want to bring that up. That's all I have on the social media information. I just recommend that you really take a good hard look at the organizations you belong to, what hashtags that they have, how do you follow it, and can you share that with other individuals. And so with that, I'm just going to leave you be.